Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's video, we are going to be talking about the changes to the secondaries. So the Nephilim book is out, and it is has some pretty big changes. Which some of which are the starting CP and how that's earned, which we talked about in this video. Today we are talking about the secondaries, and we're going to briefly touch on the changes to the generic ones, and then talk a little bit more in depth about our ones that are specific to Space Marines and Black Templars, and how those have changed, because there's some significant changes there that we want to touch on. We will dive into doing like a full video later on about once we've been able to gather a little bit more data on what is working for us as Black Templars, and what isn't. So we'll do a full video on this later, but today we wanted to kind of touch on and give you our initial thoughts on these new secondaries. And I also want to give a huge shout out to one of our patrons, Tom, for helping us out with this video. Thank you so much for your help with this. It really, made it easy for us to do this. So let's dive right in. So Stranglehold and To the Last are dead. They're gone. Completely removed. Can't take them anymore, unfortunately, because Stranglehold was one of our go-tos. We did very well with that objective, or secondary, and unfortunately, we now have to come up with alternative plans. Titan Hunter is also gone, but it's sort of been rolled into I think it's Bring Them Down, the one where you
Yep.
kill vehicles. They just added it to that. Importantly, Assassinate is now units. Thank the heavens. So Grimaldus no longer gives up 12 freaking victory points. So that just makes him even that much better. We were running him anyway, or a lot of us were. Now more than ever, we want a Master of Sanctity because of the CP changes, and Grimaldus is ridiculously good for his points. So banners changed slightly. Now you can perform the action even if the enemy is in range of the objective, as long as you control it. That's a nice buff. Some of the other changes include engage on all fronts, and the RND, which is retrieve Nephilim data, I guess it's now. They didn't have to change the acronym for that one. So these were tweaked so that it is now based on the starting strength of the unit, not how many guys are currently in it, which is a nice change, makes both of them easier to score. Otherwise, the rest were pretty much unchanged. So let's go ahead and get into the ones that are specific to us as Black Templar players, which are generic Space Marine ones and the Black Templar ones. Where do you want to start, Bob?
So we'll start with the one that pretty much everyone used. Everyone that was a
Hmm.
Space Marine player. Oath's a moment. So there was a pretty big change with this one, and what it initially was, and you would score 2 points at the end of your turn if you held it with a core character within 6 inches of the center. It is now changed to be only 1 point. So
It's a
that
huge blow.
means that you're losing 5 potential extra points each turn on this one. So you have to be really on the ball to max out this secondary now. Now, this is kind of a trend for a lot of the secondaries across the game, with some exceptions. I'm looking at you, Necrons and Sisters,
Necrons
but
needing all the help they can get. Okay, don't
but
be dissing on my Necrons.
heresy. So this is still doable. You can still get the 15 points, but it's a lot more
It's a lot
difficult.
harder.
So you before, what you were going to be doing is, like, for me, I was taking this with or without a center objective because I wanted to be in the center of the board. And
Yep,
I would max out this objective or the secondary pretty much every game.
easily, easily.
Now you really can't do that. You really want to focus it on it. So you want that objective there. You want to be able to block it off. and you want to be there right away. It's difficult for some army lists to get on the center of the board. Unless you're using concealed positions, which a lot of Black Templars people do not do, you're not going to score your points on this. So,
And they made it harder. Now it's core or character. So
yep.
you can't park those Centurions in the middle there and just dare people to try and charge them. It's not only less points, but it's harder to score, which really makes this one a challenge. I think it's okay still in center objective missions because you'll probably want to control that objective anyway.
Mhm.
But it's definitely not the auto include it was before, and you're definitely not. You're going to struggle to max this, I think
Yeah,
now.
you're still going to get a good 10, 12 points out of it. But if you're looking for maximum point secondaries, it's not
I
it
think
anymore.
I think GW has tried to move away from secondaries that are just like easy auto take max every game, which this absolutely was.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be surprising to anyone that it got nerfed. It's still unfortunate though because it's not like Space Marines were tearing up the meta or anything like that. Um, but moving on, so we have Codex Warfare, which was changed to be 2 victory points for the heavy doctrine, Devastator doctrine, I guess, and then 1 point for each of the others. This is a nice buff, but honestly, this one is still crap, in my opinion. And the reason is because you have to kill the unit with that weapon in that doctrine. So if you're in the when the like if we take accept any challenge and we kill a unit in melee, we are that unit. The doctrine is active, but that doesn't matter because it's for your army. So it has to be turn 3 or whatever turn you decide to go into assault doctrine, which will be turn 4 if we're running AAC to get that extra tactical doctrine. So it's just too hard to get anywhere near close to worth taking, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
I think if you build the army correctly, you have a decent shot to get some points, but you're not going to max it. It just with the way it works out, you first turn if you got long range weaponry, you can potentially kill 2 or 3 vehicles with your gameplay to max out the first heavy. But then you have to get into tactical doctrine, which if you're not and accept any challenge, you're going to want to be into uh, your assault doctrine on turn 3, right? So you're going to only have 1 turn with tactical doctrine to get 5 kills to get your 5 points because it's only 1 victory point for each unit that you're killed. You're not going to do that unless you have at least 2 turns,
Yeah,
and even then, it's stretching it. And then you have to kill 5 units on turn 4 and 5 in assault. I don't think it's going to happen.
no,
So it's you could probably get, if you're lucky, 7 to 10 points out of this, but you really have to build your army around it, and I don't
this
think
is
that's
not.
going to be
It doesn't synergize with our play style.
no. Iron
So
Hands, sure, not
yeah,
us.
not us. All right, so that leaves us to the last Space Marine generic one, which is Shock Tactics. This one is the one where if you take an objective from your opponent, you score 3 victory points. If they controlled that at the start of your turn.
And you control it at the end of your turn.
Correct, yeah.
So
So
that's the big change.
yeah. This one's okay. You can only get a max of 3 points per turn. You can't miss with it, which if you want to max it, you got to do it at least once every turn. Um, uh, it's okay. I think our version is better, um, which we'll get into in just a second. But this is it's not it's basically similar to Stranglehold, only a little easier to achieve.
Yeah. So this is going to be extremely difficult to max out
You got to hit
because
it
you
every turn.
You have to hit it every single turn, which on first turn, that means you are in their deployment zone taking over one of their objectives.
which ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean there is the rare opportunity with when you're doing uh, that extra. If we pick the correct vow to get that extra 3 inch move and charge with like a Vanguard veteran squad, be able to do that to get across the board. Forgive me, Pour the Witch.
yeah,
So maybe you can do it, but usually it's not going to happen.
hmm
Uh, Theoretically, you could get there with like an Invictor war suit uh, with a concealed position, get as close as you can with a 9 inch, and then, you know, they walk pretty far and get a charge off. But again, it's going to be pretty difficult. However, it is a very reliable 12 points. So if you have 5 objectives in the mission, this is a go to, I think, if you have a solid 12 points. You can take it back. Our army is built around taking objectives and holding them and
yep,
taking it back. So again, we're not going to max it, but I don't think there's a lot of fully maxable secondaries out there. So this might be a good one for you.
yeah. That's the three from the Space Marine book. Moving on to the three from Black Templars. A couple of these were changed as well. Since we just talked about this one from the Shock Tactics, we will talk about the version that Black Templars have, which is called Allow Not the Worship of Unclean Idols. So this one has been changed as well. It is the same exact wording as the Space Marine one. Well, very close to the same, except you only get two, but there's no max. If you take two objectives, that's 4 points. So this rewards you for getting, taking over multiple objectives that your opponent controlled. Um, the other change to this one is it used to be that you had to have a chaplain in range, which sucked because it's like we have one, maybe two at most in the
Yep.
army. Like that's just ridiculous. So, and chaplains are not fighty characters. So it's not like we can like suicide a chaplain and he'll murder. No, it's not going to happen. Now they've changed it to chaplain or core. That's a significant buff because now Terminators, Vanguard vets, basically everything but Centurions, sweep something off an objective, or just run up and obsec it with our um, our strat. Um, the name is escaping me. Conviction of Strength. That's what it's called. Run up and take this objective from somebody, and we are, then scoring this objective, which is nice. So I personally like this one a little bit better, especially in a larger uh, objective missions where you have a lot of objectives that will potentially change hands more often. Gives you more opportunity to take away multiple ones. Um, so um, so yeah, so I think this one is a little bit better than the Space Marine one, especially because if you can get two a turn, you can max this without having to do it every turn. So it gives you, if you're able to do multiple ones in a turn, you could theoretically miss a couple turns and not worry about it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm probably a little bit more optimistic than it sounds like you are on this one. So I really like this. So the addition of being it would be core units in addition to the chaplain means that you can build a list that has core units or use our stratagem support to grant our core units to get OBSEC to be able to ease the taking of these. 6 objectives, or even 5, honestly. If you think about Stranglehold, we were exchanging back and forth because most armies were taking them Stranglehold, and you lose one objective, 2 objectives a turn, and then you would take it back the next turn to get your points. This is the same exact thing, except you're getting 4 points for doing that. This is maxable. This is something that is not capped. And if you have a
Yeah.
particularly good turn, you can get 6 points
Yeah.
on this objective. Now, again, you have to work around core. So that means, things like Centurions don't work. The other characters that you're using, like they're very heavy in a lot of lists, don't work. And then you'll have to make sure that you have a chaplain to to make the best of it. But I think this might be one of the secondaries that are going to be taken a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it works best with MSU lists. So those big, heavier units that are kind of taken in like the foot slogging list, Crusader squads probably aren't going to do so good with this because we are pretty durable and they have to take it from you. So if you're sitting on an objective and you're not dying because you got a 20-man Primaris Crusader squad that they're not going to kill, you're not going to get your points on this. So
Right.
MSU is probably going to be your best bet on this. But again, you want to build your army based on objectives or secondaries that you're going to be planning to take. And that's nothing new with our list building. So you want
Yep.
to make sure that you're selecting the right units for your objectives.
Yep.
But this is a good one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving on to the next one, bathe your blade in the blood of the foe. Now, this is a very Templar thing. It's mostly unchanged. You get 5 points for if the guy who accepted your challenge dies. You get 5 more points if he died in melee, and you get the final 5 points if your guy who issued the challenge kills him. You also get CP immediately if you succeed all three, which is great. I mean, if you can do that, that's like an instant buff. The big important change to this one, which I think makes this a legitimate secondary now, is we get to choose who accepts. So we choose our guy, and then we get to pick their character as well. This is huge because now, instead of your opponent being like, I'm going to, pick this guy who always sits in the back and, whatever, or this ridiculously durable character that you're never going to kill, right? Now we get to pick them, and we can either pick something that's like a squishy buff character that maybe now he does have to hide him in the back. So if he doesn't want to lose those points, now he's not buffing the important units that he wants to, or something that is maybe a midfield or forward character. It's maybe a little bit more durable, but gives us a better opportunity to make sure that we get in there and kill him. Or maybe he has to be a little bit further back, so his dangerous character isn't quite as dangerous because he's hanging back, afraid of getting squished. So I like this one a lot. I think it's much better now, and absolutely worth considering.
Yes, this is an absolutely huge. And honestly, I'm building my list now to do this because having the ability to strategically pick your opponent's characters
Yeah.
for this and taking it out of their hands and forcing them to react at the very beginning of the game to what you're
Yep.
doing on your secondaries immediately is huge. Huge. Especially when characters are taking primarily in the games for buffing purposes. I can guarantee you that your opponent is going to be thinking about, do I want to give up the points or do I want to buff my army?
Yep.
Because they have to make that choice now.
Yep.
And if they don't make the right decision and you have a decent list that can take advantage of that, that's points for you. It
Yep.
potentially is pretty easily 10 points, at least 10
Yeah.
points every
Yeah.
game. So the key with this one, and it's kind of important to note, is you get 5 points for killing that model, which is not too terribly difficult. We can
Yep.
reliably kill characters, right? But it is also if it was killed by the character that
The
is in our
challenger.
list that we we challenged. It doesn't
Yep.
say that it has to be melee, so you theoretically could shoot them too and still get
shoot
that 10 points.
shoot him with Helbrick's ferocity. I have
Exactly.
a melta shot to the face. Yeah, that's a good
So,
point. I hadn't thought of that. Um,
so
and you know, we have two really good melee combat characters: the Emperor's Champion and Helbricht. Both of them can, especially to like mid range. Obviously, like the dedicated melee oriented combat characters of other chapters are going to give both of them a run for their money. But any normal character that's not especially geared for to be a smash character, we're going to take them out in melee almost certainly. So yeah, if you can engage them with one of those two guys, I think it gives the Emperor's Champion some great play options. Especially, Bob was already talking about one of his tournament lists, which we'll hopefully have a video for you soon, where he's taking an Impulsor, two of them actually, with the Emperor's Champion in one of them, which is a great delivery mechanism for him, in my opinion. So yeah, so I like this one a lot. I think it's absolutely worth considering. I think it's a fairly easy 10 points to score.
yep,
So definitely, and we can build around it because we're already going to be wanting to get into melee anyway. So even if we can't get our character to kill them, we can probably still get 10 points out of it, which is fine.
yep.
Um,
I mean,
so
it
and it
might not be the reliable 12 points on some of these other ones
that's
that you can
fine.
take, but it's more fun to do. So I would
It's
rather
more
get the
fun to
10
do.
points than the
And
12
anytime you can
points.
play mind games with your opponent is also a big deal.
That could win you
So
the game just there.
yep, because they're going to be worrying about, "Well, I don't want you to kill my dude," and they're forgetting to play their secondaries, right? Um, so yeah, I think it's definitely a great secondary now. And then the last one is carry out your vows, and
We'll
this
just forget
one
about that one.
has not changed. I don't personally like this one because you have to really focus on being more melee than we really want to be, right? We want to use our guns to take out either things that we're not going to get to in melee because they're too far away, or things we don't want to be in melee with, right? Because they're better than us. So, you know, for example, when I played against Patrick's Tyranids, I shot those Carnifexes because I did not want to be in melee with them, right? That doesn't help me score these secondaries because you have to kill them in melee, and it's just whatever they kill, period, not in melee with you. So to me, it's not a great take. I was talking with Tom Sagona earlier, and he likes this one. And he said if you gear for it and build towards it, you can do well with it. I think if I think it takes a certain type of play style to do that, and I think you have to be, um, you know, you have to be very focused on making sure that you are scoring more melee kills than your opponent, which can be hard to do, especially against some armies. So I think we want to reliably score at least 10 points with secondaries, because if you do that and you max your primaries, you're looking at 85 points. That gives you a great opportunity to win a game, assuming you're painted. I think you want to score at least 10 reliably, right? It's not about maxing it anymore. We want a reliable 10 points. Something to note, which I didn't mention earlier, which is really important, is it used to be that you could only have one secondary that was unique to you. So, and for Space Marines, it was either the generic book or your supplement, not both. That's gone. You could take all Space Marine objectives now if you wanted to, as long as they're not from the same category, right? So you can't double up on shock tactics and allow not the worship. because they're both battlefield supremacy, right? But as long as they're different segments, um, you could take all of them. So anyway, that's our video on secondaries, on the new secondaries, and how they've changed for us, and what that means for us as Black Templars. So hope you liked it. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and make sure you click that bell notification so that you can get notified on all of our latest content. Uh, Please check out our Discord. We have a great group of guys and gals talking Black Templars and tactics, lore, anything to do with Black Templars and just the hobby in general. Really great community of people. We also have a Patreon, so if you'd like to support us, we really appreciate that. Thank you to all of our patrons, and again, thank you to our patron Tom for helping us out with this video. We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, keep on crusading.